Happy Christmas, y'all. I think that most people would come to see Christmas, at least in part, as a happy occasion. Of course, we don't want to overlook that Christmas can be a difficult day for many too, with family tensions, loneliness, loss of loved ones. All these things can have a really strong impact. But overall, it's not too hard to imagine Christmas as a day of happiness, as a time of good. But what kind of good? We could talk about the goodness of giving, a spirit of generosity, but that can lead us to the justification of spending way too much money and expectations of entitlement to what we should get out of Christmas. We could talk about the goodness of table fellowship, of eating and sharing community together, but that can lead us into to justification of overconsumption. What we need then is a marker. Something to help ground us in what the goodness of Christmas is. And this is why the Incarnation matters. Incarnation is that marker, the prompt for us to remember what it means to be good, to do good, and to be part of God's goodness in the world. And just so we're on the same page, Incarnation in Christianity is the belief that Jesus, as God, became flesh. That is, that Jesus was both fully God and fully human. This is one of the great paradoxes of the church. Because how can anyone be both fully God and fully human? The theologian Will Willimon gives us a good way forward here when he writes, Jesus as fully God and fully human is a paradox, yes, but he is also a lovable person. Who warms to a paradox? When you love someone, you embrace that person's wild oppositional complexity. Seemingly paradoxical behavior makes you love your friend all the more. Jesus Christ seems paradoxical only to those who think God and humanity are mutually exclusive. Jesus Christ seems paradoxical only to those who think God and humanity are mutually exclusive. One of the things that we often tend to do is imagine Jesus as a late addition, like a new character brought in to revive a faltering TV show. Yet, what John 1 that David read to us this morning reminds us is that Jesus as the Word is present from the beginning. In the beginning was the Word. It's no mistake that John begins his gospel with the same words that begin Genesis, in the beginning. John is reminding us that these two stories are inexplicably linked. The Catholic theologian Richard Rohr takes this idea further when he suggests that the first incarnation was the moment described in Genesis 1, when God joined in unity with the physical universe and became the light that is inside everything. The incarnation then is not only God becoming Jesus, it is a much broader event. And that's why the incarnation of Jesus is a biblical moment of recreation. It is God making crystal clear to us that God is not only with us, but has always been with us. Will Willimon calls the incarnation of Jesus an intensification of what God has been doing since Genesis 1. In fact, that's why at our Lessons and Carols service 2 weeks ago, the first lesson was from both Genesis 1 and John 1. Creation and recreation from the beginning. And what God has been doing and creating is creating and seeing that it is good. God created the world and is continually creating and seeing that it is good. God created humanity in God's own image and is continually creating and is seeing that it is good. The problem for us is that so often we can't see that good. We can't see the good that is in the world, the good that is in others, the good that is in ourselves. And that's because we've been given a different narrative, a different story, a different worldview which we often subscribe to, that tells us that we are not good enough unless we have more money, more stuff, more of the latest fashion or tech than our neighbour. We're told that life is a competition and that we need to win. It is a story where capitalism, not Jesus, is king. And that's why we need the Incarnation. We need to know that God is with us. Not because there was ever a time that God wasn't with us. Genesis is a testament to that. But that our attention is too easily captured by the systemic story of capitalism, of violence and greed that comes with it. And so the Incarnation is God's way of grabbing our faces and turning us around and saying, look at the good that is already here. Look at the good that there is still to do. Open your eyes and see what's in front of you. In the three synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, in the stories where Jesus calls his disciples, the words "follow me" are usually used. But in John's Gospel, the invitation is different. The invitation is, come and see. And the great thing about this invitation is that it's not just Jesus who makes it. Jesus invites disciples, and disciples invite other disciples to come and see what Jesus is doing in the world. Come and see the good that is happening. Come and see justice being done. Come and see the love of neighbour and enemy and self enacted in the world. It's no surprise later that in John's Gospel we hear this short but extraordinary articulation of Jesus' purpose in John chapter 10, verse 10. I came that you might have life and have it abundantly. I came that you may have life and have it abundantly. The Incarnation is life. It is abundant life. It is Jesus showing us what is possible if we leave behind the shackles that hold us back and truly live. In October and November this year, I ran a short course called Let's Talk About Atonement, where a bunch of you joined me in doing just that, talking about atonement. And if you missed out, this is an invitation for you to bug me about it until I run it again, for as Radhika calls it, Atonement 2 Electric Boogaloo. But as we together explored a number of different atonement theories throughout the church's history, a common theme emerged, particularly in the early church, but still present today, and that is a preoccupation with Christ's death. For many, it seemed that the saving work of Jesus is only encountered on the cross. Now, of course, Jesus' death and resurrection are indispensable events. But if that's where we begin, if we only see Jesus' significance throughout his death, then we miss so much of what the Incarnation has to offer. Because I believe that the saving work of Jesus begins not with his death, but with his life. It begins with God in Jesus, present with us, living among us, teaching us, healing us. And if we see that, if we really, really see that, then we can't help but do our best to be like Jesus for others. To be light in the world. To be love in the world. Over this season of Advent, we've explored biblical moments of recreation. We started in Genesis with the story of God and Noah, the flood and rainbow, a story that is ultimately about covenant, where we are invited again and again to renew relationship with God. We then move to Exodus and the story of the Exodus, where we are invited again and again to take up the call to freedom from principalities and power and to live lives committed to God. And then we came to the story of Job, where we are invited again and again to remember that God doesn't simply fit into the boxes that we create for God, and that God is as untamable as the grace that God offers to us all. And we finish today with the Word, with the Incarnation, where we are invited again and again to hear, to hold, and to follow that word that called all creation into being and continues to call us to follow. Friends, as you head out to whatever today holds for you, may you know that God is with you. God is with all of us. And may we all live into the invitation that God offers to us. In the name of Jesus, born this day, amen.